whatever they like. If there's any kind of element of being overseen by a manager and given guidance, they're not self-employed. Substitution, this is the one that gets everybody. I love this one. And I said to a salon owner who said, I'm thinking of taking my staff self-employed. I said, okay, how do you feel about this then? You've got 5 salons in your high street. How do you feel if your stylists say, I'm going to work with you a couple of days and 3 days, two doors down? Is that okay? I'm not having that. So, but you can't stop it. And in fact, you almost have to prove that you do that to be self-employed. So substitution is going to trip most people up. Mutuality of obligation. This is a hard one to prove, but if you're a business owner and you're obliged to offer the stylist clients and they're obliged to do it, they're not self-employed. They should be controlling their own clients and refusing or agreeing to do certain clients under their own obligation. Can they work for other salons? No, they can't, basically, because we wouldn't have that. You've got to look at whether we provide equipment for the individual. It strengthens the case for not being self-employed. Self-employed must be seen to take risks. The other criteria to consider is how they paid. It's all the devil's in the detail. What is the way that a stylist who is self-employed paid? It should be on a per project basis, not a daily rate. The word commission should never enter into the conversation. Are they sort of part and parcel organisation? And an HMRC inspector said to my accountant, look, we would want to stand at the door of a salon and identify the self-employed stylist. How are you going to do that? They've got to have a pink hat on or something. But they should say that we shouldn't be able to look at a team of stylists and you guys are self-employed. We should know that you're self-employed, which I think is going to be a really tough one to prove. But they're adamant that is part of it. So if they're in business, they're basically in business for themselves. A self-employed person is in business for themselves, responsible for the success and failure of the business. They can make a loss or a profit. They decide when and what work they do, how to do it, and they can hire someone else to do the work for them. They're responsible for fixing any unsatisfactory work in their own time. It should be a fixed price for the job. Very hard one. They use their own money to buy their business assets. They should have a website. The relationship of supplier and customer, not employer-employee. So you guys have seen this. So I just touched very quickly through it. But here's the thing that I wanted to share with you, because I've worked a bit on this since I wrote this course originally. My belief is that one of 3 things will happen after this starts to really happen next year. 3 things. And these are 3 scenarios I'll share. Number 1, there'll be a rash of stylists going mobile, and they'll disappear under the radar. Okay? It's not going to suit every client, because clients who've been coming to salons and enjoy coming to salons because of the environment aren't necessarily going to want to have their hair cut in the kitchen. I genuinely believe that. Okay? The second option is that some salon owners will do it properly, and they will say, Brett, this is your chair. You can rent this chair. It's 250 quid a week. I want 250 quid each and every week for all year. I don't care if you're here or not. That's the deal. You take your own money, you book your own appointments, you buy your own stock. That's your rent. And I've got 5 Bretts. Now I'm earning 1,250 quid a week. I'm happy. So that'll be a scenario 2. It's a shit scenario because how do you're going to have Brett's going to have all his product piled up there, and he's going to have his own little cash machine, and the client's going to think, what the hell's going on here? I've gone from having a nice service in a salon so that's scenario 2. I hate that as well, and hopefully that isn't going to have too much traction. Option 3 is this, and this is the best scenario. The stylist will say to you as a salon owner, I want to consider going employed, because neither of those first 2 scenarios works for me. Okay, so then we need to be equipped to give them an offering that works, because that's what's happening at the moment. That's the advantage for the salon, is you get a fixed income. If you go down the rent a chair, you've got no holiday pay, no sick pay, no training or coaching. So Brett, I want my 250 quid a week. I don't have to do anything else for you. I just want my rent. I don't care what you have to do to generate that. That's what I want. That has a certain appeal. The disadvantage is you're operating your own business within my salon. You're effectively competing with me. You could choose your own hours days. If 5 of self-employed stylists who rent chairs suddenly decide they're not coming in that day, I've got no client, no stylists. I've got an empty salon. I've got my rent, but I've got an empty salon. The clients are yours, they're not mine as a salon owner. You've no control. They don't have to come to staff meetings, training. You've got no control over quality, standards, behaviour, service, any of that. And the risks of self-employed to you as a salon owner, the stylist doesn't feel bonded to the salon. And often it becomes an auction. They'll go, well, actually, I'm getting 45% here. I'm going down the road. They've offered me 52%. And then the salon down the road offers 57%. So this is what stylists in this thing will do. And you see several stylists leaving the salon and moving en masse to a competitor. Very hard to develop a brand culture under that basis. And we know now that the HMRC don't want it, and they're going to stop it. If self-employed stylists work under stipulated working hours, fixed prices, if they get any training, if they have set standards, they're not self-employed. So I've kind of put some numbers together, and I'm just going to whiz you through into the look. Why would we bother employing staff? We've got to pay them bloody holiday pay, sick pay. We've got to put money in their pension. We've employers' NI, their living wages going up. Then we've got to motivate them. We've got to manage their attendance. We've got to manage. Oh, it's just like, why will we bother? Surely having 5 Bretts paying me 1,250 quid a week appeals to me, and I can just be a landlord. So why would we want employed staff? They're bonded to your business. If you do this right and you follow a lot of the stuff that we've discussed today, it's much easier to create a proper salon culture that is fair to all. You can control regular shift patterns, you can control standards, productivity, behaviour, quality and service. So when you've got to go, okay, no problem. These guys have got to go back to Heathrow to fly back to Scotland. It's going to take them longer to get to Heathrow than to fly to Scotland. It's great to see you. Thank you for coming. So the advantages for someone wanting to be employed, so someone who is self-employed, who's maybe come to you, oh, the salon up the road says we can't be self-employed anymore, and they've said we've got to leave. And so this is what you can offer. A regular guaranteed wage, holiday pay, sick pay, maternity pay, pension, training and career progression, if you're following a lot of the stuff that we share with you. So let's look at the numbers. At the moment, you've got a lot of stylists working self-employed, working on 50-50 deal, right? Okay, so if a stylist takes 1,200 including VAT, you lose the VAT and they'll earn 500, you earn 500. Okay, that's kind of what happens. They earn nothing on holiday, and typically, and we've researched this, 8 weeks of the year, a salon stylist can see their takings drop by 50%. So out of a 52-week year, you do often find that there's 8 weeks where numbers can drop for all sorts of reasons. So a self-employed stylist would only earn 300 quid. So they'd be taking, instead of 1,200, they'd take 600 and they could only earn 300 quid. When you put all that together, sorry, it's 250. I forgot to lose the VAT on the previous slide. So 40 weeks at 500, which is 50% of 1,000 after VAT is removed. 8 weeks at 250, which is 600 quid less the VAT. 500, 8 weeks at 250 is 2,000. 4 weeks at nothing, right? Because there's no holiday pay. So a self-employed stylist in this model would take 22,000 quid. That's what they'd earn. They've got to pay their own tax and stamp and everything else out of that. Now you take the VAT, you know, what a lot of salons are doing is taking the VAT off first and then they're splitting the 50-50. The reason that people have been doing this is because there's examples of salons who are paying the self-employed and then they're effectively reducing their turnover so they're not liable for VAT. And that the revenue are getting very, very excited about that. So a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to swallow the VAT. You could technically say, well, you know, it's their business. They're not VAT registered, so therefore their element of takings. But, you know, we've seen people come really unstuck like that because it all depends where the money's taken. And if you're taking the money and then your self-employed stylist is having half, the revenue would argue that the VAT element is your VAT element. They would argue that. Whether they're right or wrong, I don't know, but I wouldn't want to go up against them in that instance. Now, an employed stylist on 328 quid a week, or 33%, who takes 1,194 including VAT, less VAT earns a basic, right? Because that's what we call her break-even point of 1,194, which is 6 quid less than the self-employed. You think, my God, they're going to have such a drop in money. Now, if we do it properly, and there's no reason why we can't, we would target someone to £1,500. And that would be 75% of their 100% target. And at £1,500, we would pay them 38%. Less VAT, they would earn £475, plus 4 weeks holiday at an average of the previous 12 weeks. Now typically, exactly the same as a self-employed, a salon stylist can see their takings drop by 50%, no different. So an employed stylist may only earn, in those weeks, their basic of 328 quid a week. Okay, let's put all that together. Now you've a stylist for 40 weeks earns 475 quid and 8 weeks at 328, 2,624, plus 4 weeks holiday pay, they'll earn £23,224 gross employed income. Okay? Now, self-employed, 40 weeks at 1,200, 8 weeks at 600, they're taking 52,800. Employed, 40 weeks at 1,500, 8 weeks at 750, 6,000, 66,000 gross. So they're taking more money being employed because you're performance managing people against that. So the profitability now looks different because the self-employed stylist is earning 22,000, which is 50% of what they've taken, less VAT. The employed stylist is earning more, 23,224, which is 42.2% of their revenue, net revenue. So the sums are compelling in favour of employed. Plus, you get the control, you get the security of being able to reinforce your brand values. You have to get the relationship right between pay, pricing, productivity. Your wages should sit at around 50% of net takings. And you manage your stylist to break even and you coach them to target. So this is the vital point. You have to leave, gentlemen, don't you? You have a plane to catch. Now, making this work is all about setting clear expectations, managing staff fairly and consistently, engaging regularly with your team with well-planned monthly meetings, challenge and stretch your team, and reward everyone based on performance. So the reason I've shown that to you today is because I believe you will be approached by self-employed stylists, because they will go to the salon that they're currently working in and they will go, now what? And the salon will go, we don't know. So you will be advertising, hopefully, at the same time, for great stylists. Earn on-target earnings of 23,500 a year. Employed, full holiday pay, training, career advancement, and all this kind of thing. I really believe this is going to happen, and we need to prepare for it. And we're going to do it. Nice to see you, Abby. And we really believe that this is the way forward, and we need to be aware and prepared for this. And what we'll probably do early next year is put more stuff about how we can attract these stylists into our salons. Because I just think the self-employment market is going to die a horrible, slow death. And I think it's the best thing that could happen for the industry. Agreed? Yeah. Okay. People that have set up in their garage or their home. Look, you're not going to stop that. Because they're doing their own thing. They're working in their garage and they're self-employed, hairdressers working for themselves. The problem is the self-employed stylist working within a salon. That's the problem. That's the thing we have to stop. Because you can't compete with that at the moment.